your whole life watching movies, from the bad to the good to the best. Well, here comes a series from the U.S. that rivals all of the rest. From the humidity down in Alabama to the where is Wyoming, we got 50 films to show you. After that you might not feel a thing. It's the worst state of movies to make you sit down and think. And it's the worst state of movies that might even lead you to drink.
What's going on, everybody? Wildman Wes here, and welcome to another edition of The Worst State of Movies. Today is lucky or unlucky number 7. Let's check to see what state we're going to today. We now venture to the East Coast in the state of Connecticut. I wasn't familiar with a lot of things from the state. However, one thing that I do know about it to a degree, being a wrestling fan, as you see the shirt I'm wearing right now, Connecticut is the state where the WWF, WWE started, and that is something that I can be proud of knowing, for better or worse. But I digress. Today we're going to be talking about the film from Connecticut, 2003's Gothika. This movie is a combination of psychological horror and crime. The movie starts off with a young psychiatrist named Miranda who is dealing with patients that have dealt with abuse or possible situations that have psychologically scarred them to the point of making very bad decisions that put them away for life. In this case, she's dealing with a young woman named Chloe who kills her father because her father did some very, very bad things to her, and she said that the devil told her to do it. Now, Miranda's not really believing this, and she speaks to her husband, who is also the head of the institution. He's dealing with a lot of other situations when it comes to court cases with patients, and he brings in one of their best friends, Pete, who is helping her with some of the cases. As she's been a complete workaholic at this point, she decides she wants to take some time for herself for doing laps in the pool. She gets in her car and travels home, and she sees a young woman named Rachel standing out in the middle of the road. She investigates to see if she's all right, and Rachel spontaneously combusts and passes fire onto Miranda. Miranda, in a state of confusion, wakes up in the institution where she finds out that she unalived her husband. And she doesn't remember anything. She is asking people a lot of questions of what happened, piecing everything together from the moment that she saw Rachel to the time that she was in the institution. And nobody's giving her the time of day on it because they feel that she has lost her mind. While going into the institution and going into the prison faction of the institution, she reunites with Chloe, who is giving her a lot of grief to say, "You didn't listen to me, why should I help you now?" And she starts noticing things with people, satanic marks. They don't say it's satanic marks right away, but it's alluded to at first, and then it is brought up when Miranda starts asking questions to her friend Pete, as well as some other individuals in the institution. She tries to reach out to the father of Rachel, asking questions on what happened to her, because he's not really saying a whole lot, and eventually she gets the opportunity to break out of the institution and investigate a little bit more, to the point where she finds out the sheriff of the police department was in on the disappearance as well as the death of Rachel, and not just that, but her husband Doug was in on it as well. And then again, you find out that was all a ruse. Miranda eventually takes out the sheriff, and the cops arrive, making sure that they get the evidence of all the people that have disappeared in the past in this situation, and Miranda is able to live her life once again. She speaks with Chloe near the end of the film, and they go their separate ways figuring out the future. And the last moment of the movie, Miranda walks by and sees a little boy, and a car travels past and he disappears. Hence, restarting everything. I wanted to give a little bit more of an abridged version. There are some things I did leave out because this is one of those movies that attention span can falter a little bit. And not just that, but there are things that this movie will make you think. It will make you stop and have to rewind going, wait a minute, did that just happen, or what did I miss? And for that, when it comes to things that I like or don't like about the film, I'm slightly at a standstill, somewhat above it. It's actually interesting. I like movies that make me sit and think and wonder, what just happened? Did I miss something? And it has nothing really to do with the plot being convoluted, though this movie does have some convoluted moments in the plot, especially when it comes to the red herring situations of who's responsible for people disappearing, who's responsible for the passing of Miranda's husband, and not just that, it's one of those movies, because it's a psychological thriller, they want to give you a lot of questions. And in some instances, when you want the audience to have a lot of questions, you tend to put 10 pounds in a 5-pound bag. And in this situation, that's where I'm a little bit concerned. However, I don't make that the end-all be-all of this movie yet. Now, the acting in this film, it is a little bit of hit or miss, because some performances are rather good and some of them are mediocre at best. They did have a great cast. They had Halle Berry, they had Penelope Cruz, Robert Downey Jr., Charles S. Dutton, John Carroll Lynch, and Bernard Hill. All of these performers did what they could for this movie, and as I mentioned, some performers really hit the nail on the head. Some of them might have had questions about their motivation for their performances in the movie. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it doesn't make the film great either. I know, I'm waffling. What can I say? This is one of these series where people say these movies are bad, and I have to sit here and whether I agree with them or maybe defend them. And in this situation with Gothika, Miranda's being defended, she's defending herself, and in this situation I don't know whether I want to defend the movie or I want to agree with the critics. And I sit before you perplexed. A good takeaway from this film is the special effects as well as the imagery involved with a lot of the supernatural forces and even, in the sense, biblical terminology. It's one of those movies where I want to sit there and go, I know they're bringing up concepts of religion and whatnot, but it's not one of those films that's trying to make you feel a certain way about those specific educational purposes. It's more or less, it's telling a story. They did tell a story for the most part. There, as I mentioned, there are moments where it did get a little muddy, and it made my attention span get a little bit off, where I had to sit there and question whether I rewind a moment to see if I missed something or if I wanted to question what exactly the purpose was of that scene. On the grading purpose of this movie, as I've mentioned in the other episodes previously, a lot of this has to deal with the rewatchability and how I felt about it. In this situation, I didn't necessarily hate the movie, however, it did make my attention span, as I've previously said over and over and over again, fall flat sometimes. However, I did appreciate what the movie tried to present and the story they tried to tell. And not just that, but the performers did what they could. Rewatchability-wise, I can't really say it's just a one and done for me. Maybe I might go back and watch this again to see what I missed, because there are some things I might have missed and some things that I still question ever since watching it again. I remember watching this quite a few years ago and I forgot about it. And it's not because I didn't like the movie, it was around the time that I was getting out of high school, going into college, so there was a lot of things going on in my life, and sometimes you don't necessarily remember certain movies until you happen to look at a list such as this series. So when it comes to my grade, I will probably watch this again at some point to see if I missed anything. And in those regards, Gothika, you live to be seen another day. Well, we hope you enjoyed this review on the movie Gothika. If you've seen this movie before and you agree with what I've said, you can leave a thumbs up, and if not, you can leave a thumbs down, and I totally understand. If there are some things that I missed in this film that you might have caught on to, we do have a comment section below. Leave one down there, and you know what? I appreciate everything with the feedback, because as fans and film critics, we all have our own opinions, and we're entitled to them to a degree. And I want to make sure that we all can kind of talk a little bit about these movies, what we liked and what we didn't like. That's what makes this community so fun. Other than that, make sure you share on social media, push that little red button, and ring the bell for instant notifications. Until then, I'm Wildman Wes, and we will see you next time for another edition of Worst State of Movies. Take care.
It's the worst